In Pickens County, the School Board of Trustees voted to allow a banned book back into some libraries with some restrictions. The school board approved a motion unanimously, allowing students to have access to Stamped in high school libraries. Students can only check it out if they have parental permission. Last fall, the school board voted to remove the book from all schools after some complained because the book was assigned reading for a 10th grade English class. Some of those against the book claim it pushes critical race theory, while supporters say it offers different perspective on history and ideas around race. Not much else is known about why the board approved the new motion to allow some access to the book, but the ACLU of South Carolina and the NAACP filed a lawsuit against the district, calling the original ban unconstitutional. We're working to get you the most up-to-date information. Stay with us.